On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks are still terrible in the fourth quarter, but they're winning. Spencer Dinwiddie can't get a free throw call, but Luka is still good. Which one of these things or something else is still sustainable? We'll talk about that coming up on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to comment anything below. Let me know, what's something you think the Mavs need to change? What's something that needs to change, like a player has to change, Jason Kidd has to change something? Let us know. Just one thing that they should change. Let us know. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com, the Sustainable Sultan, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Guys, I'm really excited for these City Edition jerseys. They're coming up. They're debuting on Saturday.
He's not being sarcastic. He has been extremely sarcastic about past jerseys, so I know that you could be confused, but this one he's actually very excited about.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The graffiti ones a few years ago sucked. I would not take one of those for free, all right? But these upcoming ones on Saturday, they're debuting them on the 12th against the Trailblazers. Man, just the marketing on down to the jerseys. There's a video that's coming out this week to launch them on socials and stuff from the mat. Like, just so much stuff. Yeah, man, it's awesome. It's the best City Edition stuff we've had since they launched them.
I want to go to the hangar with you on Saturday so that we can, like, I can see how much money you're going to spend on all this.
We literally had a budget conversation this weekend and about just different things. And I haven't even brought this up yet. So,
hey, I know we talked about the budget, but there's all this cool Mavs stuff coming out. And then,
listen, I know we're talking about a new webcam because people complain about my camera looking bad. But
your wife just goes to your closet and is like, It's like the SpongeBob with the diapers thing.
You know what? It normally turns into, well, do you want to sell some of your shoes? And I'm like, all right, never mind. I'm good.
On today's show, we're going to play a game. Is it sustainable? I got a bunch of different stats and things about the Mavericks, how they play in the fourth quarter. It's bad, but they still win games. Luka Doncic is doing something no one else in the NBA is doing. Spencer Dinwiddie has a beef with the referees. We talked about the Tony Brothers incident on our weekend episode, so go watch our post-game episode if you want to hear all that. I played the clip. That apparently I'm the only person in all of the world that got the footage of because I didn't see it anywhere else besides my Twitter.
Congrats to you.
Spencer Dinwiddie's monologue.
You dropped the SoundCloud, which was awesome. But no, it was cool seeing your awareness as a reporter just to break out the phone and get the clip.
You know me, capital J journalist over here.
TMZ Nick.
I'm just getting ready. All right, let's get into our first one. I talked about this stat a little while ago, and it still is just baffling to me. The Mavericks' offensive defensive rating, so the points scored per 100 possessions and points allowed per 100 possessions, basically their efficiency, like how efficient are they at scoring and defending. In the first quarter, the Mavericks are the number one offense in the NBA. Great. They're the number one offense in the NBA throughout the whole game. They're the 22nd ranked defense. They still have a positive net rating of 7.4, which is great. So their offense is just carrying them in the first quarter. Luka's doing incredible. Second quarter, 5th ranked offense, still great. 3rd ranked defense. An incredible defense. They have a net rating of 20.9, which is just like astronomically high. They're an incredibly good second quarter team. Third quarter
that Luka sits the most in. No, I'm just kidding.
So solid in the first, so really good in the first quarter, incredible in the second quarter. Third quarter, they're 22nd in offense. No idea. It's just dropping. Like, it's completely just dropping out for them in a way where
hot dogs at halftime.
In a way where the second quarter doesn't, or the first quarter doesn't, because that's what first quarter is where Luka plays the whole time. Third quarter, Luka plays the whole time. So something is happening with Luka between the first and the third quarter. And then the fourth quarter is the one I want to focus on. 9th in offense, still great. 28th in defense. Literally third to last in defense. They have a negative 3.4 net rating. It's their only quarter that they have a net rating that's negative in. And they're still winning games. They're 5-3 now. They've won 3 straight games. How are the Mavericks still winning despite being this bad in the fourth quarter defensively?
Well, they have Luka Doncic, so that helps.
There it is. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
It's been good. Brooklyn comes to town tonight. We'll see you tonight post game. I'll kind of turn in a little bit and say, you think something, or I'll ask a question back to you. Do you think it matters that it feels like the fourth quarter, the rotations are a little bit more up in the air compared to the other 3?
Yeah, the other 3 quarters, the rotations have been pretty much set. Besides the change of Dwight Powell and JaVale, the only changes that have been in that fourth quarter, like figuring out how to close. Like the next stat I was going to bring up goes in tandem with this. The Mavericks have played 8 games. 7 of them have been clutch games, meaning it's a close game late. And Orlando's played 8 clutch games. They're the only other team to play more clutch games than the Mavericks so far this year. And the Mavericks net rating in clutch moments. So NBA defines clutch as 5 minutes left in the game. The score is within 5 points either way. They have a negative 22.8 net rating, which is just like extremely low. They're wildly bad in these clutch moments. But they're 4-3 in these clutch games. There are only 2 other teams in the NBA that have a negative net rating in the clutch and are still winning. It's Memphis, they're 3-1. Minnesota is 2-1, and Dallas is 4-3 in these games.
Yeah, so I wonder if this is something that will level out a little bit. I wonder. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I don't know. Is if they land on a closing lineup. Something I would like to know is how many different players for the Mavericks have played clutch minutes compared to some other teams? Because it feels like there's been a lot of players that's played clutch minutes for the Mavericks because, Christian Wood closed the OKC game. Yeah. Maxey closed another. Dwight played, a good chunk of clutch minutes the other night. How many different guys have played clutch minutes for Dallas? It could be around the same, so it could be irrelevant what I'm saying right now, but maybe it is something that as the season goes on, and as they land on, let's just say it's that closing lineup with Maxey, the Bang Bros, Dinwiddie, and Luka. What if that is the closing lineup he lands on, and then we see a big enough sample size to where, the next, 5 to 8 clutch games, it's mainly just that lineup to where they build some camaraderie, some chemistry in those tight, close moments. I don't know. It might not, but
they've had 8 guys that have played clutch, like real clutch minutes. Hardy played like 1 clutch minute, but Dorian, Luka, Maxey, Reggie Bullock, Spencer Dinwiddie, Christian Wood, Dwight Powell, and Tim Hardaway. And yeah, it has seemed like Jason Kidd has decided, all right, this game, I'm going to leave Wood in and see what happens. All right, this game, Tim Hardaway Jr. shooting well and impacting the game. I'm going to leave him in. This game, Dinwiddie's not doing well, so I'm going to pull him and not let him close, right? Like, it just seems like they're really trying to figure out different lineups. Is that the right approach, or would you rather them stick with, all right, we just got our same lineup that we're going to throw out there at the end of games?
Because wasn't it like I think it was the first few regular season games. It could be the preseason games, so tell me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it the first few to where they brought Christian Wood back into the game with like 2 minutes to go? It was like this weird kind of rotation. I think that was
some of preseason, but yeah, they've tried it a couple times.
And it was like, so it's like stuff like that. I tend to be the person that leans towards, let's bring the same crew back in. Like, let's typically hey, we have our closing lineup, whether it's Christian Wood or Maxey, whoever it is. I think it'll be Maxey, but with Dinwiddie instead of Hardaway, I typically lean towards, let's have that closing lineup together. Let's close with that most nights. Now, obviously, if Tim has 34 and, he's lighting it up, maybe that, something different with that. But I tend to lean that route over the hot hand.
Interesting. I think that I lean on the hot hand just a little bit more in some of these games because I think a lot of the Mavs players are so close. Like, I just don't think that if you're talking about the difference between Wood and Maxey, they just give you different things. I wouldn't say one player is like, astronomically better than the other. You're not talking about the difference between Jaylen Brown and Hauser, right? Like on the Celtics. Like you're not talking about that kind of a difference. So coming up, let's talk about a couple other things. Are they sustainable? Luka Doncic is doing something no one else in the NBA is doing right now. Spencer Dinwiddie wishes he was doing something that every other player is doing. We'll talk about those two things coming up. Before we do, let me tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy where you pick 2 to 5 players and they go to score more or less than their Prize Pick projection on points, rebounds, assists, whatever you decide. You can win up to 10 times on any entry. So go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 if you use that. You can go and check out right now. I'm on the NBA. Ooh, Pistons versus Thunder. This is a good one for Prize Picks. Cade Cunningham, 21.5 points. Isaac, over or under on that one? Against the Thunder.
Under.
Under. Not a lot of players have scored 30 plus. I think Luka and Anthony Edwards are the only ones that I looked that up the other day. SGA, he's on our tear right now. 27.5 is his over-under on Prize Picks. More or less for SGA.
Over.
Going over on that, you put down $20, you can win 60. If you put down $50, you can win 150. Put down $100, you can win 300. I could also add more stuff to that. I could take away and just do, I could do NFL, I could do NBA, I could do a whole bunch of different things. Go check it out. It's Prize Picks, promo code LOCKED ON. All right, Isaac Harris, let's keep playing. Is it sustainable? I got a bunch of stats for you. We talked about the closing lineup, how the Mavericks are terrible in net rating in the fourth quarter, but they're still somehow winning these games. They have 4 clutch wins, which is more than most teams. And now let's talk about something Luka Doncic is doing that no one else is doing. Luka is doing what I asked him to do over the offseason. One thing I really wanted to focus on with Luka is, and he listened to me specifically
Diet
on this, he's hitting his 2-point shots at an incredible rate, and especially his shots around the rim. He's shooting from 2 right now, 66.7%. An incredible rate. He's taking 15.4 of them. That's there's 39 players in the NBA taking 10 2-point shots or more in a game. So there's 39 players taking this number of shots. Luka is number 1 in percentage among all those players. Number 1, and he's taking 15. I think he's 4th or 5th in the most 2-point shots. If you take that to, all right, who's taking 7 or more? Like if you take it from 10 shots to 7 shots, Luka is 5th. Only Nick Claxton, center, Aaron Gordon catching lobs, Lauri Markkanen, 7-footer, and Jokic are the only guys above Luka as far as 2-point percentage. And he's just killing it right now in the mid-range, around the rim. What do you think is the difference between this year and last year for him?
I think he's just being a little bit more aggressive and making the right decision. The other day we threw out that we were talking about his 3-point attempts in a game and, trying to just land on a number. And I threw out 9.5. I was like, all right, let's track that this season. And the other night against Toronto, somebody tweeted us like, hey, he didn't shoot he didn't shoot over 9.5. They won. So I actually looked it up. He shot over 10 2 times this season. They were in losses.
Yeah, Pelicans, he took 13. Phoenix, he took 10. And then the other loss was OKC, he took 6, but he missed all of them. So there's something with Luka's 3-pointers and the Mavs winning.
And then all the other ones, he's took under 10, and they've won every single one of those games for the most part. Outside of the 0 for 6. Now, obviously, that doesn't tell, but we were jokingly throwing out the 9.5 number, and it is something I'm going to look at throughout the season. Let's see what that record is at the end of the year. Just because it's that settling thing. And if teams are going to continue defending, Toronto threw so many different defenses at Luka, everything you can imagine. But if defenses are going to continue to say, Luka, we will switch heavy, no matter who we have, we're just going to leave them on an island with you because we don't want the other guys to get going, then Luka has to punish them and get to the paint, get to the mid-range, get to the rim, all of that. And I think that's more on him as a decision maker just maturing as a player of instead of settling for the step back 3 all the time.
You know what I think is kind of an underrated part of Luka's game that has to do with the 3-point shots that you're talking about? Going into this year, doesn't take a shot that he's not good at. He is not taking any shots that seem forced, that seem like, oh, the defense is giving me something and I just got to react and do something. He's only going to do what he does, right? It's all right, I'm going to dribble move, and then my turnaround fadeaway through like mid-range shot that he hit. And he just hits it all the time. He has his shot where he posts up some guy or drives into somebody, bodies them, he pushes them off a little bit, and then uses the contact for balance, and then throws up a little floater, even though it's like right at the rim layup. Like just those things that he's doing where he's taking those shots instead of like, all right, I'm going to run in and try to do the, like a CJ McCollum mid-range pull-up. That's not his game. That's that speed and running in and take a quick pull-up shot. Like, that's not him. It's the slow, methodical stuff. And he's just, like, somehow the game has slowed down even more for him, and it's affecting his shooting and the way that he can take these shots. I mean, he's taking an insane amount of, like, listen to his 2-point attempts per year. Rookie year, he took 9.3 2-point attempts a game. Last year, he took 12.8. This year's taking 15.4. Like, he is just like taking even more of these shots because he can get anywhere he wants on the court, and he's only taking the shots that are good for him and that he feels real confident
in. And that's why he's averaging 36 a game. And it's more of that instead of the thing we hear all the time that we were joking about the other day on the show was, well, imagine if he starts hitting the threes at a high clip. No, that's not the imagine if. Imagine if he continues to take over 15 2-pointers a game because that
hits 2/3 of them.
Yes, that's what's unstoppable because he's so big. He can shoot the ball so well from the 2-point and get to the basket at will and finish over guys and all of that. That's the more dangerous thing instead of, hey, what if he, hits this certain percentage from 3 one day?
Yeah, it's like, what if he became a completely different player and did this other thing that doesn't fit, his game, like at a certain point. But he is doing the thing that his game is really good at, just doing it at an even higher level than we even thought.
And your question of, is this sustainable? Yes, it is. This one is confident. I'm confident in this one. If it was flip-flopped and it was, hey, Luka's shooting, he's shooting 40% from 3 right now. Is that sustainable? I would say no. It's not. Just because we know the difficulty of a lot of threes that Luka takes, whether it's in the games or different time. But his 2-point percentage and 2-point attempts, I think that is sustainable.
Here's one for Luka and Dinwiddie. Taking shots off the dribble when you take 7 or more dribbles. This is like the highest that NBA.com will allow you to track. Like if a player dribbles 7 or more times before they take a shot. So it's not like they dribble, pass, get it back, dribble again. It's consecutive dribbles and then a shot.
Dinwiddie loves those between the leg dribbles.
So there's only 19 players in the NBA taking 5 or more shot attempts off of 7 or more dribbles. Luka and Dinwiddie are both in that group taking 5 or more attempts.
Kyrie?
There's a bunch. Luka is shooting 54.6%. The only players shooting higher than him that are taking 5 or more, SGA at 64%, which is insane.
Wow.
Lillard shooting 61.3%, which is still great. Okay. Yeah. And our old friend, Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson shooting 63%. He's killing it. He's only taking 5.7. Luka's taking 12.1. Like, he's still taking a ton more of those than everybody else.
Oh, man.
SGA's taking about 8. Luka's taking 12.
Insane.
These are, again, shots off of 7 or more dribbles. Dinwiddie's taking 5.3 per game, and he's shooting 47%. That's better than Curry, Harden, CJ McCollum, Paul George, and Trae Young. Trae Young shooting 34% off of these shots. Just awful. Is that sustainable for both Luka and Dinwiddie, for them to both be shooting this well off of all these like isolation dribble type moves?
For the Luka one, I could just be done with this stat, but like, I mean, is that counting him bringing the ball up the floor too?
Oh, that is a good question. That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. NBA.com doesn't get that specific with that.
Because that, takes a little bit, but still,
I'm going to say it doesn't.
But that's still him dribbling the ball all the way up the floor and then just taking a shot without passing the ball. So you kind of get that. This one's hard. This one's hard to predict if it's sustainable or not. I mean, sure, I guess I'm not confident either way in this one.
Yeah, this is more of just an impressive stat. Coming up, there's one about Dinwiddie though. He's got a beef with the refs, and I asked him about his free throw rate. It's the lowest in his career. Is that sustainable? Is his success sustainable unless he gets to the free throw line? We'll talk about that. And then a couple others. Josh Green, Mavs 3-point shooters. And then the Mavs like shot frequency, like the Mavs offensive profile. I have a thing on that I want to get into. Is it sustainable for them? We'll talk about that coming up. All right, Isaac Harris. Spencer Dinwiddie over the weekend had some things to say about Tony Brothers. And after he was done talking about that, you can go listen to our post-game episode.
What did Tony call him?
Hey, BAMF, but not the acronym you're thinking of. He's only taking 1.8 free throw attempts per game. That's the lowest in his recent career. I think he took 1 per game in Detroit 1 year, but he barely ever played. 12.7% is his free throw rate right now. It's the lowest of his career by far. Here are players that are taking 13 or more shots, so the same as Dinwiddie, that have a lower free throw rate. Jamal Murray, coming back from injury, takes a lot of jump shots. CJ McCollum, Buddy Hield, Klay Thompson, and then Josh Giddey's kind of a weird one. But those are like spot-up shooters. They don't take a lot of free throws, these spot-up shooters. And Dinwiddie's a driving guard. It's interesting to me, and what I asked Dinwiddie was, do you know that your free throw rate is the lowest in your career, and what do you attribute that to? The way you're taking contact or the calls you're getting? This was literally like right after his monologue about all the Tony Brothers stuff. Oh,
you really leaned into it.
I was like, I got this stat ready, and I just want to ask him. And he said, are my paint touches different? Am I taking less drives? And he's not. He's not taking less drives. He thinks his paint touches are still the same, and he's just not getting the calls. He's like, how many am I averaging? I said 1.8. He said, ain't no way. Ain't no way. And he walked out of the room after his presser. Is this sustainable for him in a bad way? Like, will he continue to shoot this many free throws, which is not many?
No, he's going to shoot more than this because I think he's going to get more and more aggressive. Like, we love when Spencer Dinwiddie drives to the basket and continues to punish the rim with these guys, and he's going to get more free throws.
Is it about how he's taking contact? Do you think he's just getting a bad whistle? He also had the offensive fouls the other night, 2 in a row that were just brutal, which is one of the reasons why he got the tech.
I also don't think he's like trying to sell calls either. So he's just focused on scoring. So, but yeah, I don't think he's getting the right whistle. He definitely gets fouled and sometimes doesn't get called, but I also don't feel like he's flopping a lot either. He's just going with a mission to the goal.
Right. And I feel like he's trying to get the right play and almost avoid contact so he can get a better shot off than trying to like just take the like what you saw James Harden do earlier this year or last year where James Harden was struggling and he's like, I'm driving to the rim and it doesn't matter what happens, I'm getting a foul call. Like I have no intention of making this like taking this shot. I'm just getting a foul call. Like Dinwiddie's doing the opposite of that. He's like, I'm going in and I'm going to try to get a good shot off to try and score for us because more pressure's on me this year than just to go and try and get a call, which, you know, I'd rather him do that, but he does need to get a better whistle. I don't know if complaining about Tony Brothers and doing everything he said over the weekend is going to get him that better call. What do you think? This is a question a couple people asked me. Do you think that it's going to give the Mavs a bad whistle? Like the next time they get Tony Brothers and he's like, he remembers Spencer Dinwiddie's monologue about how he would rather not be called the words that Tony Brothers called him. Is that going to give the Mavs a bad whistle?
I mean, can you hurt anything else with Tony Brothers? I mean, he threw out Jason Kidd. I mean, there's a history and stuff there. So I don't know any fan base that's like clamoring for a Tony Brothers, performance there. But I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to see if do we hear about it anymore on Monday or moving forward, or is it something the league's like, hey, we got bigger fish to fry right now, so we're not really focusing on this. But It was. I do want to say that's ludicrous. Like if he literally told one of his teammates, which I believe Spencer, when he said that, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah. So the NBA came out before the year. It was like, we're going to promote ref and player relations and make sure that it's amicable between the two and try and cut down the amount of like screaming that players do at refs and call texts closer and all that kind of stuff. And they've been doing that. And then if it comes the other way, then it's like, okay, well, what are you guys complaining about? If it goes both ways, then,
Tony's just one of these dudes that you just can't like you can't understand like what he calls techs for. Like they had a tech rescinded last year, and I remember talking to somebody when they were talking about the rescinding, process, whatever.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And like, and one of the what they were getting rescinded was just absolutely stupid. Like what was called, like what he called a tech for. You're just like, how? Like, how do you decide in that moment that is a tech? And yeah, I'm not gonna get all the details of it, but it's just like it's stuff like that where you just don't understand. This is the human nature of refereeing, and you're just kind of at their mercy.
Well, we dealt with this last year. Remember, Luka's 16th tech was like ridiculous, and we were wondering like, what do they do to like actually submit to the league office? They have to actually call in to the league office, and over the weekend, a lot of times people aren't there. Like they just don't work over the weekend. There's a couple people there, but not many. And then so Monday, we'll probably hear something on Dinwiddie Monday, whether he's going to get a fine or he's going to get his tech rescinded. Like there'll be a couple.
It'd be cool if they were like, "Hey, Tony Brothers not going to ref a Mavericks game the rest of the year. He admitted to it." Blah blah blah.
We're going to cool off. Cooler heads prevail. Let me give you one Josh Green one. His minutes have increased each of the last 4 games. Is that sustainable?
I thought you were going to give me a different stat about his 3-point percentage.
His 3-point percentage is 61.5%. That one I'm just going to give you an easy out. That's not sustainable, but it is a good
best
sign.
in the NBA.
It is the best in the NBA. Who would just tweet that out? The minutes.
What was your question?
Josh Green's minutes each of the last 4 games has increased. Is that sustainable, or where does it like plateau? He played 20 minutes last game. 4 games ago, he played 13.
I mean, I don't think it's going to continue growing by 4 to reach 48, but I think no. I mean, he does things well, so it's like if they can figure out a way. I mean, you've been on this. If they can figure out a way to lower some of Dorian and Reggie's minutes, I mean, heck, lower some of Tim's too, and just skim the surface of all 3 of those guys, and then just give Josh some of those. And just unleash Josh and let him do some of these things. You need that. Like, I don't see him playing a big role in the playoffs, but you know what would be awesome for this team
if he did,
and the trade market is if Josh proves some value around the league of okay, like oh man, this guy's rolls, a good young guy's rolls getting better. He's getting more minutes. He's shooting the ball better, more opportunities, looking better and better. Like you need that as a team and as an asset.
I think they'll if it's going to keep going up, it'll plateau around like 23, 24, maybe 25, where he starts getting in that range, which is where some of the other Mavs bench players are. But I like not having to play Bullock so many minutes and Dorian so many minutes and put Josh out there. And the Mavs have been really good when Josh Green's playing so far this year.
Yeah, if
the Mavs offensive profile is something I want to get into here. They're 4th in the NBA in offensive rating. It would be the highest rating in franchise. It's 118 points per 100 possessions. It'd be the highest in franchise history, which would be crazy. Right now, here, let's just talk about this. They're number 2 in percentage of corner threes taken. So they're taking the second most corner threes in the NBA. They're number 4 in shots at the rim percentage. About 40% of their shots are at the rim, which is nuts. And then they're 30th in the NBA in mid-range shots. Do you think that continues? Do you think that's by design, or do you think that the Mavericks want to try something different on offense?
30th in mid-range.
So they're last in mid-range, not taking any mid-ranges at all. Taking a ton of corner threes. This is the most
numbers you've ever thrown at me.
I know. Ton of corner threes and a ton of shots at the rim.
No, yeah, I think that's sustainable in what they want to do.
Listen to their shots at the rim. 40% of their shots are coming at the rim. Last year, it was at 27. That's a good number to just focus on.
Good.
What's the difference between them taking 40% of their shots at the rim this year and 27% of their shots at the rim last year?
Better decisions by Luka, Christian Wood added to the lineup, and Spencer Dinwiddie being bigger than Jalen Brunson.
Oh, man, you're a casual.
Absolutely. That's absolutely what it is. And they're getting out in transition a little bit more. They're getting a couple more stops. I feel like that matters just a little bit more. Yeah, it's those 3 things that you mentioned. Christian Wood is adding a lot and also throw JaVale McGee in there too, because you have JaVale, Dwight, and Christian Wood that are all like only getting shots at the rim.
Shout out to the lineup.
Christian Wood's not, but Dwight and JaVale McGee are.
Yeah. Shout out to the lineup change in that. I was on the corner 3 on the Freak, 97 won the Freak on Saturday. And Katya asked me like, "Hey, would you start Dwight over JaVale right now?" I was like, "Guys, I was so wrong about JaVale. Yes, I'd start him right now over JaVale." And that was recorded on Friday, and then bam, it happened Friday night. I was like, "Oh crap!" They really leaned into it like quick. But
on the mid-range shots, they're last in the NBA in percentage of mid-range shots taken.
Good. Who on this team do you want taking mid-range shots?
That's part of it. 20% of their shots are coming in the mid-range. That'd be the lowest percentage in Mavericks history by 3.5 percentage points. Like, that's a lot. That's super, super low. What do you think their highest was? 2006 when they went to the finals. 53.3%. Talk about the NBA changing. They're shooting 53% of their shots in the mid-range. Not even just at the rim and like not threes. Mid-range.
Tell me Phoenix's. Like what's Phoenix's mid-range? Like I think a lot of that's roster construction too, to where if like you have a Chris Paul, you have a couple of these guys that, Dinwiddie, you want him to get to the basket. Dinwiddie's going to take a spot up three. You got a guy like Luka that's going to handle the ball a ton. Like, if this team had another.
Yeah, Phoenix is at 33.6. The Mavericks are at 19%. The Mavericks they're low. They're the lowest in the league by 3.5 percentage points. Like they're taking no mid-range shots compared to everybody else. The highest is Atlanta at almost 40%.
Wow.
So the Mavs, compared to the rest of the league, are taking no mid-range shots. It's by design. This is what they're trying to do, and it's working.
Yeah, and I think it's a combo of one, the game plan that works for them, but also roster construction too, to where like if they had a third ball handler on this team that was like a Chris Paul, like a mid-range guy, that number would be a little bit higher if they had another. Because like I personally don't want Tim Hardaway just coming down and taking mid-range shots all the time. So Christian Wood, you're 6'11", like get to the basket or take a spot up three. Like that's kind of like what Spencer Dinwiddie's doing too, but a little smaller. So outside of Luka, there's not a ton of guys on this team. Brunson's gone.
Yep.
Do you have their mid-range from last year?
Yeah, they were.
I want to say it was a little bit higher probably with Brunson.
I said yeah, but I knew where to go get it, but
you know how to use basketball reference.
I'm using cleaning the glass. Yeah, they're at 19.9% this year, right? So 20% of their shots are coming in the mid range. Last year, 32%. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the Jalen Brunson effect.
For sure.
So it's roster construction and what's the most efficient.
And Luka getting to the rim more, which we talked about earlier. So. There's a couple of things the Mavericks are doing. Let us know what you think they need to change or if any of those stats you think are not sustainable in the comments. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs, making us your first listen. Go listen to Locked On Sports Today, an incredible podcast covering all of sports, including the biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and more. Check it out, Locked On Sports Today. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.